They say families break when the money runs out, but ours began to rebuild. One evening, the lights went out, not from a storm, but from unpaid bills. My father sat silently at the dinner table, the job loss written all over his face. My mother hid her tears behind forced smiles. We didn't speak much that night, but the silence screamed of fear. I looked at my little sister playing with an empty bowl, pretending it was full. That image haunts me even today. But in that broken moment, we didn't fall apart. Instead, we leaned in. We were about to discover a strength we never knew we had. The next morning, we sold our TV to buy groceries. My father walked barefoot to save bus fare. My mother stitched clothes deep into the night just to earn enough for bread. I sat there feeling useless, wondering if I even deserved dinner. But still, every night we sat together. No matter how little food we had, we ate with dignity. Those dinners weren't about what we ate. They were about why we ate together. Somehow, love was feeding us more than food. In losing everything, we were discovering the only thing that truly mattered. I once saw my father alone outside, long after midnight. He was staring up at the sky, not saying a word. That night, I realized he wasn't just fighting poverty. He was battling his pride, his fears, and the pressure of being the man of the house. But every morning, he wore a fake smile for us. "I'll figure it out," he always said. We didn't know where he went all day, but we knew he was out there fighting for us. In his silence, he was louder than any speech. To us, he was still our hero. I once asked my mom for a pair of new shoes. She paused, smiled, and said softly, "Not today, beta." That night, I saw her fingers bleeding from sewing torn shirts. I didn't say anything. I just watched. That moment hit me harder than any school lesson. It wasn't about shoes. It was about sacrifice. I never asked for anything again. My parents were giving up everything, silently, for us. That night, I learned that love isn't loud. It's quiet, and it bleeds quietly, too. We began to smile at smaller things, like the sound of boiling rice or a shared joke at bedtime. My sister made smiley faces on our unpaid bills and stuck them to the wall. "One day we'll pay them all," she said. And we believed her. We didn't have heat, but we had warmth. We didn't have much space, but we had togetherness. We cried sometimes, yes, but not from weakness, from love. The world may have called us poor, but inside that home, we were building something priceless. One evening, a neighbor knocked and handed us an envelope. Inside was a small amount of money, no name, no message. My father stood still, holding it like it weighed 1,000 bricks. He didn't want to accept it, but my mother gently placed her hand on his and whispered, "This is not charity. This is love being returned." He nodded, tears finally falling. That night, we cooked rice and lentils and shared it with the same neighbor's kids. We had little, but we knew now. Giving isn't about having plenty, it's about having a heart that still beats for others. I was 14 when I secretly took up my first part-time job, cleaning dishes at a roadside cafe. I used to lie and say I was going to play with friends. But when my first pay came, just a few hundred rupees, I placed it on my mother's pillow. The next morning, she didn't say a word. She just hugged me tightly, longer than usual. That moment changed me. I wasn't a child anymore. I was now a brick in our wall, a son who finally understood what it meant to stand for his family. My mother's hands began to wrinkle faster than her face. Years of stitching, washing, cooking, and comforting left their mark. One day, I kissed those hands and said, "You're the strongest woman I know." She smiled and replied, "Strong hands are just tired hands that didn't quit." That stuck with me forever. Her hands didn't just make clothes. They held our entire world together. No gold rings, no fancy creams, just cracks of sacrifice and threads of love. They were the hands that made our house a home. It was my little sister's birthday, But we had no gifts, no balloons, no cake. My father folded a piece of paper and made a butterfly. My mother cooked her favorite lentil soup. I took out an old notebook and wrote her a poem. She hugged us all and said, "This is my best birthday ever." That night, she slept with the paper butterfly under her pillow. No celebration, no photos, but that memory lives with me louder than any party. It wasn't about what we gave. It was about how we gave it with love. My shoes had holes in them, but I wore them proudly to school. Some kids laughed. I ignored them. I knew my mother skipped breakfast for a week just to afford those shoes. I used to polish them every night, not to make them new, but to honor her sacrifice. Each step I took felt heavier, not from shame, but from gratitude. Those shoes weren't worn out. They were filled with love, soaked in dreams and tied with strength. They didn't define my poverty. They defined my pride. There were days when hunger felt louder than words. My little brother once asked, "When will the rice be ready?" though he knew there was none. My mother handed him a cup of warm water and said, "Close your eyes. Imagine the smell." He smiled and slept. That night, my father brought home just 2 potatoes. We shared them like it was a feast. I realized then, hunger can break your body, but it also brings people closer in the most unexpected way. We didn't have enough food, but we had enough love to survive. One rainy day, I helped an old man cross the road. He looked into my eyes and said, "You remind me of someone who once saved me." I didn't know him, but those words stayed with me. Later that week, a bag of groceries was left at our door. No note, just a smiley face drawn on the packet. I knew it was him. That day I understood. Kindness is a circle. What you give doesn't vanish. It finds its way back. In silence, in rain, in kindness. And we needed that kindness more than ever. Sometimes when it got too hot inside, we would all sleep on the roof. No fans, just stars. My sister would count them out loud, while my father hummed old songs. My mother would braid her hair, and I would just lie still, listening to the sound of peace. Those rooftop nights were not about escape. They were about finding heaven in a place with no ceiling. We didn't have air conditioning, but we had stories. We didn't have beds, but we had each other, and that was more than enough. One night during a power outage, I whispered to myself, "Someday, I'll make sure we never live like this again." My father overheard me. He didn't stop me. He just said, "Just don't forget who you are when you get there." I didn't understand it then, but now I do. Darkness isn't just the absence of light. It's the space where dreams are planted. And my dream was born in a room lit only by candlelight, surrounded by the most priceless people in the world. That night, I made a promise that would guide my entire life. 20 years later, I found an old letter my mother had written but never sent. It read, "We may have nothing, but our children make us feel like we have everything." I froze. Tears dropped on the paper. That letter wasn't meant for anyone outside. It was a secret, a truth, a message of silent strength. I kept it in my wallet, even today. Every time I feel lost, I read those words again. They remind me of where I come from, and why I can never give up. One morning, after years of struggle, my father finally got a stable job. Nothing grand, just enough to keep the lights on, the food warm, and the fear out. My mother cried, silently in the kitchen. My sister danced around the house, with a paper flower in her hand. I didn't say anything. I just stood outside in the sunlight, eyes closed, breathing in the calm. That day, we didn't just celebrate income. We celebrated survival, and the bond that no hardship could ever destroy. Looking back, we didn't just survive poverty. We transformed through it. We became each other's light when the world went dark. And that light never burned out. It only grew stronger. Today, whenever I see families struggling, I see pieces of our past. And I silently pray they, too, find strength in each other like we did. Because real love isn't built in comfort. It's born in fire. If this story touched even a piece of your heart, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, BillionX.